You're all set.
All right, so let's call this meeting to order and please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Village of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are in the traditional lands of the Muncie, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The Village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting the sites that are on our agendas and minutes. And if you have anything that you think should be added, please contact us. Thank you. Steve, I think we'll talk before next time about switching things up so I can share things and then maybe pass it on to trustee Steffa to say the night acknowledgement next time. Yeah. Sorry about not thinking about that in advance. So first we'll go into, we call it to order, do all that. Now I would like to run into announcements. And then we'll do public comment after that and approve the various agendas. Does anyone else have any announcements at the board table?
No.
I have a couple. I'll keep it short as possible. So just a reminder, there's plenty of room at every table here in the village for people who want to volunteer, aka we need more volunteers. So we have a lot of boards, commissions, and councils that have either full membership spots open or alternate positions open. And like, if you're interested in like anything from landlord-tenant relations to protecting the environment to keeping people housed, learning about zoning and all of that, boy, do we have a job for you. So reach out. So you can go onto the village website, villageofnewpaltz.gov, and navigate to the boards and commissions tab to learn more about each of them. And you can also just reach out to our clerk's office anytime to learn more or to express your interest. I also want to share that the next Repair Cafe is this Saturday, January 17th, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at United Methodist Church. I also wish to share an announcement from the Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis Center. Let It Shine, celebrating the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is taking place at the Rosendale Theater on Monday, January 19th. 3 p.m. there's a live community program exploring the principles of nonviolence. And then at 5 p.m. there will be a screening of King in the Wilderness. Just a note that that film is rated TV 14. So parents, just be wary of the ages of your kids if you bring them. But this is a free event for the community, accepting donations, and I hope to see people there. I also wish to share that and say, please join us for free community meals every Tuesday from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. right here at Village Hall over in the old fire truck garage bay. Thank you to Scott and Leanne for leading this effort. If you are hungry, there are resources. Check out ulstercorpse.org, and I'll keep sharing this out on all my own social media and make sure to share it with staff to make it in the minutes because their map is really, really helpful. And then just want to say, in light of recent events in which a fellow member of our greater LGBTQIA+ community was, shot and killed by an ICE agent, there are resources available for us. So Pride Coalition website has a great, robust, and constantly updated resource page, newpaltzpridecoalition.org/resources-services. So let's jump into well, there's no public hearing tonight, so we can skip that part. And then public comment. So if anyone in the public wishes to speak, you can come forward so that the microphones can pick you up and, share your name and your relationship with the community and, try to keep it under 3 minutes, please. Anyone want to come speak? Oh, Kitty, we'll get to you after we get to some in-person people. That's cool. We
Sure,
won't.
fine,
Cool.
thanks.
Thank you.
We
All right.
have this.
Yeah, come on.
Hi, I'm Pierrette Farber. I'm a member of the New Paltz community, and I am a co-chair of the Indivisible New Paltz group. We would respectfully but firmly request full transparency regarding the appointment of the New Paltz Village Mayor. Since the public cannot vote on this choice of mayor due to the timing of it and this situation, we have some requests. One is that there would be public disclosure of all applicants' resumes. Since in an election, we would see who the people were that were running for mayor. It would be really helpful to know who is applying for it. We would love to see public interviews take place. In addition, we would ask that if the board would accept input from the community, again, since we can't vote, if we can email in our questions, our concerns privately to the trustees who are going to be making that decision, we would very much appreciate having input into that process. Also, anyone that is applying for the job who is on the Board of Trustees, including the acting mayor, we would request that you fully recuse themselves from the entire process while applying for the job of mayor. That would include coordination of interviews, discussions with or about the candidates that are applying for the decision, and any decisions about the public access to the appointment process.
I'm Joan Randall. I live at Woodland Pond, with the village, and I just wanted to reiterate, well, not to say it again, what Fred has said. We just would like this process to be more transparent, more democratic. I'm the executive director of a national organization called Democracy Matters. I take that very seriously. So we would like to have this process be as transparent as possible, and make sure that there are public comments. Hopefully, if we have to extend the time during which this happens, that would be some way to accommodate some of these changes, because I know the time is very short. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in person, and then we'll move to online? Hi, here, the next, it would be good so folks at home and when I can pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name's Gigi Freeze. I'm part of Indivisible Rail Trail Maintenance, blah, blah. One thing was, yeah, I was gonna ask if you could extend the time because I wasn't aware that it was such a short frame. And the other thing was, and this, I don't know if this, I'm allowed to bring this up now. I was coming back from a protest and I was going, I believe, north on Church Street. You know where that bicycle trail is on the side of Dubois?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm making a right to go up the hill. 2 cars went onto the trail thinking it was the road. You need to have some kind of pillars there because I mean, they could have hit somebody. And I was watching them, and by the way, they were on that thing all the way up to Prospect or whatever the
Oh,
cross
goodness.
street was. So there has to be stuff put in. I'm seriously dangerous situation. But yeah, I think there needs to be more transparency for this whole situation.
Awesome. Thank you, Jean. Anyone else in person have a comment? Okay, awesome. So, I see Kitty hand up. I don't see anyone else online. So Kitty, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I've just been looking at your consent agenda and you have some new board members, and of course, I'm not that familiar with village business. So I tried to open the memo that is in the consent agenda, and I could not. I wasn't granted access, so I hope that you will, read it or explain to us what it is. I was happy to read that you're going to be hiring Aria Filtra to, uh, I guess, resolve some of the issues at the water treatment plant in order to avoid catastrophic failure. So it just feels like that's something that maybe you would want to talk a little bit about. I was also not able to open the document letter regarding NOV HAA 5 exceedance. What are these items, item 8, and what do they have to do with our local water? So if you could just kind of pull those things out from the consent order and just give us a brief overview of what they are, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kitty. Any other comments online? Great, so now I would like to go ahead and we're going to the consent agenda. I was going to just motion to approve it without any amendments, but so I'm going to make the motion to approve it. And then I'll ask for a second, and then with discussion, I will pull out those items that Kitty pointed out. So hang on, let me just make sure I have them open.
Hey, Alex.
All right, so I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, now we'll have a quick discussion. So, with the document that was labeled, the November one, where was that? Letter regarding November HAA 5 exceedance. This is, from the Department of Health to be sent by mail to water and sewer customers. Really sorry, I can't seem to even be able to personally share it, but we will make sure that is publicly available. Oh, I have to add these items to the agenda. Okay, so can we get rid of that motion? Sorry. And I would like to instead move to amend the consent agenda to include these items that have the asterisks, to propose item, sorry. We're having some technical difficulties with one of those items, but we'll work on making sure everyone can view them and they will be in people's mailboxes. So I motion to approve the consent agenda with these amendments, adding item 6 to approve the proposal from Area Filtra in the amount of $15,000. And to add also item 7 to approve the letter required by the Department of Health to be sent by mail to water sewer customers, as well as adding item number 8, contract VMP-251, consent order compliance sewer remediation. And if I can get a second, then we can move on to the discussion and then vote. Yeah,
Sure, second.
cool. So yeah, so we added those items. I think I fixed the viewability on the ones I could. The others that I can't, we will fix as soon as possible. They're from the building department, and we'll work on that. But the exceedance item, it basically, if you are a water sewer customer, you will get this in the mail. It is a follow-up to the previous letter sent April 2025. And basically it says we routinely monitor for the presence of drinking water contamination. Testing results from October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025 show our system exceeds the standard for maximum contaminant level MCL for HAA 5. I'm trying to go through it quickly. And then the level has averaged at one of our systems locations from 10/1 to 2024 to 9/30/2025 and was 68.1. The standard is 60, and basically it's like, what should I do? There's no action needed. There's no boil warning, nothing like that. What does this mean? It's not an emergency. If it was an emergency, you would have found out within 24 hours. And it's basically a standard letter. And what is being done since our last notification, additional sampling has been conducted to better understand the formation of HAA 5s in our system. The average HAA 5 results for samples collected in in 2025, which is April through June, and Q3 2025, which is July through September, show overall improvement with quarterly averages of 41.5 and 56, respectively. So, the issue has basically been resolved and no action is needed. And, if you are a water sewer customer, you'll get that in the mail. The other item that Kitty said she could not open, if you actually refresh, you will be able to open it. It was that memo, approval to hire Walden Environmental. It is a request from our Department of Public Works, asking for our permission to accept the proposal from Walden Environmental Engineering to assist with MS4 compliance. And so again, a pretty perfunctory thing. Thanks for bringing those to our attention, Kitty. Again, if people at home refresh, you should be able to open these up hereafter. So can I motion to approve the consent agenda as amended with that discussion?
I have a question, please, Alex. And
Oh, sure.
and I'll say, maybe just one disclaimer that as new as we are, as I am anyway, I might ask questions that might otherwise not get asked, but this will be the only time if I don't clarify. So correspondence like this that comes from the village to households would typically be approved by us, or is this a particular type of communication that needs to be approved by the trustees?
We don't usually send like communication in the bills besides the bill unless we approve at the board to either create a fun newsletter, hint, hint, if anyone wants to take that project on for a future cycle, or required notices like this.
Okay, and is it
Yeah.
possible that this notice was already received by residents?
This is a follow-up from April, so it looks and sounds a lot like one that people already received with like a few sentences updated.
Okay.
Yeah, basically that last part where it's like things have been actually good, reminder, there's no emergency. Yeah,
Thank you.
really good question, because that again reminded me that we'll have to all talk sometime soon about, do we want to like bring back former trustees, Bill and Michelle's and Stana's newsletter that they did in water bills during COVID times. Yeah, all right, so now can I get that motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? We did it? Okay, cool. Awesome, done. Thank you. Sorry. And thanks. So now I would like to,
We didn't vote.
what?
We didn't call the vote.
Oh, yes. Let's call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. Thank you. Got myself in a tizzy. Okay, so now on to the reorganization agenda. And just for the public who's following along, we have a reorganization agenda and then we'll have our business agenda. So I move to amend the reorganization agenda to include this following motion. To include the following item, which would be hiring Ariana Bosco as part-time deputy clerk at 20 hours a week with a rate of salary of $30 per hour with an effective date of hire as of January 14th, 2026. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? So just I want to add clarification. So Ms. Bosco is a contractual employee at this time as of yesterday. So as of right now, as long as we approve this, this is a change of status. And just want to say sincerely, thank you to Ari for being a part of our village team and for helping me through those little tech bumps 15 minutes ago. All right, so all in favor? Aye. So now that we amended the reorganization agenda, I'd like to move to approve the reorganization agenda as amended.
Second.
All right, we got a second, so discussion. I figure I would just quickly walk everyone through with a discussion point. Our work here as clearly as possible. Basically, what was I gonna say here? This motion is gonna approve all the policies, fee schedules, other perfunctory items related to the continuance of government. We do this every single year. If you actually check out the agenda, which lives on the village website, you can click through each item, read those policies and other related documents. They all also have their own homes on the village website. because they're basically our guide, as a village for each year. There's really no major changes, except for, who's doing what at which times and other, changes that were, previously made to policies and fee schedules, at other meetings. So this motion will designate which members of the village board right here, whom amongst village staff will be serving as liaisons to the various village committees, commissions, task forces, and so on. Designates the banks we use, newspapers we send notices to, how many hours in a standard workday, stuff like that. It's our script for the calendar year. That's basically it. So with that, I want to call the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sweet. Now, onto the business agenda. So let me just double check myself here. That we didn't have anything to add. Yeah, cool. Nothing to add. So I would like to, motion to approve the business agenda with no amendments. All in favor? Aye. All right, so item number 1 is our joint application cost sharing with the town of New Paltz for local government efficiency grant, which is due February 4th. So basically, this is, like the letter proposal is like linked in there, probably says things more eloquently than I can, but the town village will share the cost of hiring this firm to submit this local government efficiency, proposal grant for $5,400. This is, for our ongoing effort to work jointly, between the village and the town to create one united municipal center right here at 25 Pottickville Avenue. An idea that we've heard a lot about over the past 10 years, but it's starting to feel even more real. So, I motion to approve this joint application.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, second item, we've got Collier's Engineering proposed construction support, construction inspection, which is what CSCI means, which is pretty cool. Scope and fee for the New Paltz sidewalks pin 8761.22. And so the fee is for, is estimated to be $230,740. And, yeah. The additional service is estimated to be $25,858. I don't have to read that all, but I'm nervous, so I read it all. So I motion to approve New Paltz sidewalks pin 8761.22 scope and New Paltz sidewalks pin 8761.22B.
So this is another time, right? Okay.
Well, let's second it and then we can discuss.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Just in terms of understanding process, and I don't have a particular question about this, but if I were to have a particular question about a detail like this, and we have discussion, if the questions can't be answered in discussion because the people that might have those answers aren't present, would we typically postpone this vote until the following agenda?
I would respectfully ask that we save that for rare circumstances where something gets added at the last minute. These items we did all have access to last week, and so we had the weekend and this week leading up to kind of do that response and calling of me and our staff and all of that with any questions. So we do like to try to keep things going, especially with items that have to do with sidewalks, water and sewer. Like they have killer timelines. So, this is where I will say I did make sure you all are on emergency bypass. So like, even when I'm sleeping, you all can reach me. And if I don't know the answer to something, which is a lot of things, I know who we can ask. Yeah.
So the answer is we should make sure that things like this are explored before the meeting, because in every instance possible, we want to approve them individually.
Absolutely. We should all be doing our homework. That is what we signed up to do. Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, item number 3 is the village and town building department intermunicipal agreement.
Would you like to give me a quick
I would love that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. So this is a agreement that the town passed at their organizational meeting. What it allows us essentially borrow each other's code officers, building inspectors, fire inspectors when needed. For those who don't know, our building inspector is leaving us the end of January. There may be a period of time where we only have the assistant and the fire inspector who both work part-time. So essentially on a monthly basis, the town does not have a designated fire inspector. The building inspector and the code officer are allowed to do fire inspections, but in the need be, they could borrow our fire inspector. We would essentially on a monthly basis track the number of hours each person works for the reciprocal municipality. We'll do an invoice at the end of the month to settle the difference between the two. It's something that could happen without this agreement. This agreement just more or less formalizes it. Any licensed code officer can do an inspection anywhere. But being that we sort of already share a number of things, we thought it would make sense to do this. So everybody stays employed as they are now. There's no changing of employees. There's no merging of departments. And the rate that we put in there of the pay schedule is based on the salary plus FICA approximately. It's probably a few cents to a few dollars over the exact amount, but that would cover, administrative costs and things like that. So,
Great idea.
It's a good overview.
yeah, it's just to help us keep things moving, while, they've been searching for people, we've been searching for people, and it's a way to share our strengths. We have the two positions that they don't have, and they have the one position that we won't have, so. So that's.
Yeah, that's, thank you so much for that summary. And just want to also point out, this is like another one of those ideas that we've been floating for my 10 years here at Village Hall, and it's great that we're finally in a position that we can start like really working on these things. Back in that day, it used to be really stressed from the state to like do everything you can to find shared services, and like we're doing that now, so it is, while we don't have to do this without this IMA, having the IMA is always good in case the governor decides to be like, oh, I'm gonna like, shine a light of, extra favor upon municipalities that practice shared services practices and stuff. So it's really good to just be super like above board and like labeling all these things too. So that's why I like this IMA. Any other questions or anything on this one?
I think it's really exciting.
I know, right? Okay, so I guess I'll motion to approve that we the village and town building department IMA.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That was Rich's second, by the way. They both said it at the same time, so we'll give them that one. It's never fair because it's always whoever's like right next to someone, cool, so we got that
We're not
done.
keeping score.
No, I know, but I just want to make everyone feel good.
Thank you.
So, okay, our next item is next steps in the zoning code update. Come on up, Mike.
Back up again.
So Mike has been working so hard on this. I'll turn the mic to you in a second. But I think we're gonna kind of take a lot of the bigger updates out of the meetings and move it towards kind of a smaller working group that I propose being actually me, you, and like the three, like Rich, Alex, Mike. But we can also rotate if people just want to take turns and stuff. So to you, Mike.
Yeah, so as Rich from the planning board and Alex and Alan, you may be aware, when the mayor hired me last in May of 24, we talked about that the zoning code hadn't been updated significantly in quite a few years, and there's a lot of things like solar wasn't mentioned anywhere in there, cell towers aren't mentioned, the number of things that have come that didn't exist, right? So I spent about almost a year really piecing through it, going through it all. first brought it to the board where we kind of went through a generalized topics list. And then we started sort of hammering through it, with the planning board. I've had some input. All this has been very, in draft form, not in published format yet, as far as the local law. But rather than taking up board meeting time, what I propose to Alex is we have a committee of 2 board members and myself who would meet for, whatever meetings we need and however long we want to meet, to kind of really go through the details. We kind of have gone through the first brush stroke of, we like these ideas, we don't like these ideas, but now we really need to hammer it down into the actual concepts and how it addresses things. And there's some new topics that have come up, and the public has become aware of this and has sent some emails and offered some changes, and some of which I agree with, and I've made those. As a matter of fact, the last edition is as of yesterday. I made another change yesterday. So I think we're to the point now where we need to have that small group kind of come up to a finished product, or as close to, not finished, but finished for presentation. And then formally refer it to the planning board and the county planning board and all that. There's no time frame on this. It's nothing that we need immediately. But there's a lot of things that just need tweaking. And Alan, I'm sure you've lived it enough too, that you probably have some ideas as well. So that's my proposal, and we can figure out a schedule and whether it be, if you want to do it evenings, if you want, I don't know Rich's schedule. And the reason Rich was suggested, because he's been on the planning board for so long, he has a lot of a lot of thought on what doesn't work and what does work, and so that's where we are.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like, once we kind of like have some time for, our new trustees to kind of like get, acquainted with just all this stuff, and we got a couple of chances to have like a smaller group sitting down working on this, we can keep figuring out different ways to kind of keep the public abreast, and having 5 of us discussions, 4 for now, but 5 events, publicly, as we work on this, because I don't know, it's fun and important, and and I'm glad we're kind of like working on it in a less keeping us here until 10 p.m. way too moving forward. So thanks for that.
And if I could add, first of all, thank you, Mike, for that overview, and thanks for the lift that has gone into bringing it to where it is now.
Yeah.
I'll say that it's really important for the community to have more clear code and more consistency in the code, in order to understand their own projects and possibilities, in terms of compliance and, application for projects. It's also really helpful for those who serve on the planning board, because one of the things that we find is that those inconsistencies and either the absence of definitions or situations where definitions aren't applicable as they once, I would say, were when that was written, create a lot of confusion, extend time, create exposure or risk to the planning board and decisions being made on behalf of the village. So I think the code work that's being done is really important. I think it's really, what you've done is really great. And I think it needs all of our attention, because as we experienced in our planning board meetings where we've had the opportunity to review it, there are things we still are picking up and recognizing, because, it's an impossible job for one. So I'm happy to be a part of the continuing review of it, and liaise with the planning board on it. And also shout out to the planning board volunteers, because they're also doing a huge lift to move it forward.
Awesome. Yeah. Exciting stuff. Okay, cool. Our next item is finally, because this is our first meeting with our new board, getting to discuss publicly all together the mayoral appointment process. So if you all don't mind, as chair, I'll kind of, catch everyone up to speed on like what I had shared at the December 17th meeting, and kind of where things are at leading to this moment, and then we can just talk it out, right? Cool. So basically, in December, I had shared basically like when former Mayor Rogers, was elected supervisor, and his supervisor role began basically at midnight on New Year's Day. that's when we had a vacancy, right? So I, having been appointed the deputy mayor prior to that, just became acting mayor. And, that's like what we have is, we're 4 trustees, but I'm, so I'm a trustee who also is acting mayor per all the laws of the state of New York that govern continuance of governments. So, basically the way vacancies of this kind of like the executive branch are dealt with is the trustees are tasked with filling that vacancy. And so last year we had worked on that process a bit, which is what was outlined, on the website and the newspaper, various social posts and, outreach that had been done. I know I shared, the information with, college contacts and different community organizations, different community leaders, people who were super volunteers in the past, and basically did my best to get it out there in, ways beyond official notices too, that, hey, this is an opening and here's the basic, outline of the process that we came up with. The timeline that we, put in that call and that we had discussed before this board was information was basically applications due by January 23rd, 2026. The reason we pushed it back, to be quite honest, beyond what, was kind of wanted by some others, earlier on in the conversations and stuff, like previous board members, is because we do have to be mindful as the village that our, a big part of our population is the college community, the university community, not just the students, but also, faculty and staff. And we all kind of live on a different clock too, like I know it turned my brain off, even though I've been out of school for so long, like for when they're not here, my brain's off. So that's why we pushed it back as far as January 23rd being the deadline and trying to get this done by the end of February. So persons selected have to, basically be otherwise eligible to run for office in the village, 18 years old, resident of the village. Whoever gets appointed, by a majority vote of the Board of Trustees holds the title of mayor. And sorry if some of this is like nerdy sounding, I'm like literally reading stuff from the attorney and from state law, but it'll help us. We'll hold the title of mayor. We'll have all powers set forth in village law section 4-400, as well as any powers conferred upon them, by the board. The person appointed as mayor will receive the salary set forth in the 2025-2026 village budget, and that figure cannot be changed absent a local law. And in our call, we had said strong candidates would be equal parts collaborative team player, self-starter, with excellent organization and communication skills. Ideal candidates view challenges as exciting opportunities and already live by the old adage, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good, but we can edit all of that too. So I do want to say before we kind of open it up, like full transparency, I am, as folks pointed out, I am applying for that appointment. I'll have my application in, by the deadline. And for this reason, I had created a bunch of tools to hopefully, set, my colleagues up for success. I'm a big spreadsheet queen. So, some tracking devices for, keeping track of applications and your own progress through speaking with, interviewing applicants, remove myself, from like being the, manager of things, by also asking Ariana Bosco to be that staff point person in this process when people, reach out to apply. I do, before we kind of like kick it open to all of us talking, I do want to say that I do feel strongly that the final interviews should be done publicly at the village board table. But that said, I want to stress to the public, if anyone's, considering applying, but you're nervous because maybe you don't want your current job to know, all those reasons, or you're worried about putting, aspects of your life like on display without even being sure how far along the process you might get, don't let that like dissuade you. We're not going to, hopefully the trustees aren't going to make you like read your whole resume like at the table and stuff like that. This is an appointment. It's not the same thing as a political campaign. But I do hope that my fellow trustees do decide to do as much of it as at the table as possible. So yeah, what do you all think? What are we doing? How are we keeping this government going?
I'm hoping that we get somebody that really embodies these thoughts. You and I have had that conversation, and that will take it seriously. And like you said, just to move the government forward, and keep in mind like what we've done here already. It's really important.
I think we should specifically address the concerns that were brought up about transparency and, I'm not sure how that would work with you recusing yourself from certain aspects of this, but it should be discussed and thought through.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very strongly that there should be a standard process, for each candidate that applies, for the benefits of equity and transparency, letting people know what that process would be. I think we can come up with a pretty straightforward set of questions that every person should go through. And although each of us may have been reached out by an individual to inquire or to ask some early questions, I think that there should be, each candidate that expresses serious interest should go through the exact same process with the same people in consideration, and that should be Stevie and Alan and I. And so that standardization, I think, is really important. I'm really glad to hear that you shared that, Ariana could sort of run point on it as project manager, because that's really important. For the process to be, a good experience for the candidates, that's important too. So, making sure that that's the case would be great. I agree with Alan on, we all probably took some notes on what was shared in the public comment, and I think those were all valid considerations. And maybe, lastly, maybe the timeline and this idea of public interview go together, because I think we'd have to really think about, practically, depending on how many candidates we have and would want to put through a full interview, how the two village board meetings between now and February 23rd would actually allow for that. And whether, we might just want to be flexible as to that outside date, not necessarily set a new one, but just be flexible as to say, we're going to do our best to move this process. But if we all agree that, public interviews are important, then we should really be thoughtful about what timeline we can stick to.
You brought up the issue of people wanting some privacy about this process. I don't know if that's feasible. Because, public resumes being public, having all this being public. So that may not be feasible. That may, some people may choose not to apply for that reason.
Yeah, well, so there are, I mean, to some extent where it's like, I think some of us had like conversations in December, separately about this, like, some people might just have different situations, like if you are associated with the university, like you have to get permission from your department. If you work, in other agencies or in other, government offices and stuff, you have to get certain levels of permission before you're kind of like out there. And appointments are generally considered by, the New York State Board of Ethics, COLIG, to be of a different matter than a political campaign for that reason. So I do want to we've only gotten one application so far and I've expressed my interest. So it's just me and my friend's dad, a former planning board super volunteer so far, just to put that out there. I just want to make sure if there's any way you all can be just mindful that as soon as an application comes in, it's not the same thing as someone announcing they're running. Let's not put their resume on Facebook yet, because they might not even ask that permission until they have a conversation with the board. If you hear me, yeah.
Gets back to Rich's point, which is there's some process that happens and people are just asking questions. And then there's a formal procedure that's transparent and open and everybody does the same thing and goes through the same process.
Mhm.
But before that starts, there can be discussions or talks or whatever, just to help people understand the process and what's being asked of them.
I think that would be really, really good. With the tracker tool that I created for you all, and hand the keys to Ariana on, now you all are editors on it, and you don't even have to use it, but to kind of put like different check marks for each of you three, you know, like had a conversation with. Like really hope we get to bring them to the board, you know, like kind of thinking of those steps, just, I think, because again, it is a slightly different situation than a political campaign and, you know, I don't want to limit ourselves, like, you know, you never know who might be interested in this interesting moment. And then there is also, if I did get the appointment, that means that a trustee position's open. And it would be nice to have a pool of people who are interested in this stuff to kind of like call through all together, right? So, I just want to make sure we're kind of on the same page with like making sure we're not limiting ourselves, but also being super clear and transparent. Yeah. We definitely should double check with our attorney about the timeline. I don't think there's any like rules about the timeline, but I do know we already were kind of pushing it, you know, per just folks in government that I've spoken with. So I will definitely follow up on that tonight.
Yeah, I didn't hear, we talked about that briefly. I didn't hear that there was a timeline imposed on us, but I did hear that it was appropriate to do as quickly as possible. And so I think, you know, that's literally a term, as quickly as possible. I think with with board meetings every 2 weeks, if we're thinking about public interviews, we'll have to figure out what timeline that can work on. In terms of timeline, is everyone comfortable with the first stage of that timeline, which is to close applicants, to close the process for applicants by January 23rd?
You know, that's gonna be, I think, on you three. But I do want to point out that until we appoint a mayor, we are gonna be a board of 4. You know, and
I understand.
yeah,
I mean, we have an acting mayor.
yeah,
So-
exactly.
So things are happening, you're doing a great job, so it's working. How about you, Stevie and Alan? How do you feel about closing the applicant process by Friday? Or is 23rd Friday? I think it's Friday
Yeah, it's Friday the 23rd.
next week.
I'm trying to go back and forth. Because I don't feel like we have a pool of applicants, you know, so it doesn't, I mean, I don't know how many more people are going to apply. Trying to get the word out there, I suppose.
When do we have to make a decision by?
We had promised in our letter to the editor and the correspondence that was put out there by that 2nd February meeting. But of course, if you three do want to like edit those notes, then I guess we can do it, yeah. But that could be, that also does bring up like another issue of, you know, I tend to be like writer of resolutions and letters and and outreach person and spreadsheet person and stuff of things I sit on. So at this point, if there are those changes, I would say that would be on you three to put those letters out and do that follow-up outreach.
And
I don't have another town gown meeting until mid-February to like update them, but
you know, and I want to say that I really respect and appreciate the role you're playing right now, and I think we all need to honor it accordingly. So I think the decision on the closing of the application has to be one that you, Stevie, and you, Alan, have an opinion about, and probably not you, Alex.
yeah.
Because it certainly would have implications for the pool that would be the competition against the folks that could be appointed. So
Do we have to-
Can I add one thing? Just bear in mind that whoever you appoint needs to run in November.
They don't have to.
They don't have to?
No, the appointment is not political. Somebody has to run. Yeah.
I'm thinking towns, sorry.
Do we have any sense of how broadly understood it is that this is a position that's available? I mean, do we have any sense of that?
So, yeah, I mean, we did, I would say, more outreach than, you know, we did the same amount of outreach we did when there was the water crisis. We did the same amount of outreach when as when, COVID first came up, this is what I spent December doing, was sharing that process and letter to the editor out, and that was actually how I came around to realizing well, I don't necessarily want to be, I didn't never want, if I wanted to be mayor, I would have run against him last time, I love him, but would have done that. But I do love our village so much, and I do want to see certain things going, and it was in that outreach that I decided I have to throw my hat in the ring. Yeah.
My initial thought is that every week that you delay, you might get more applicants. But that becomes sort of are you gonna get 5% more applicants every week you delay, or is it a diminishing thing how long has it been since we notified originally, the first time we was notified, or the message was starting to be given out?
It was started to be given out at the December 17th, 2025 village board meeting, when we provided the announcement that I read. Yeah, and the letter and stuff. And then the letter was published in the first edition of Hudson Valley One for the year. And then there was a cover story. And I sent that information out to different community contacts and campus contacts and community leaders and people who have complained to me also over the years about different things. I'm like, hey, you hate this. Why don't you be mayor? And I don't know what everybody else did in terms of their own outreach. But I would say we did also, this is always an issue, is even getting volunteers. We have openings on every board, committee, commission, and council here. So yes, telling people there's all these openings is really, really important. I don't know how many more bites we're going to get.
Okay, I have a couple things to say. One is that I think it's important that we explore what recusal means to us. Because if what's expected of us is that you're recused from the process, I think we even have to discuss whether your recusal from the process is one that makes you, eliminates you from the discussion about the steps of this process and timeline that we're setting and the way this is going to move forward. And I think that makes this process the most integrity it could have. So I want to keep saying that I really appreciate the role you're playing, and I want to honor it by also sharing with my other members that I think Alex's recusal from the process means that we have to make decisions about the process.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought, I agree with that, and it makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, you've done so much, you've done all the work going forward, so.
Yes, but that was before you asked for the opportunity.
I mean, that was kind of what led me to,
I hear
Right.
that kind of work. Yeah, that
I mean,
makes you realize these things.
If we were going to delay the deadline, I would say it would be a week at the most, because I don't think that you're gonna appreciably get people coming in. And it would be almost random if that was the case.
So that would make it the 30th.
I like that idea because I think that if what we're being asked for is more transparency, I don't know where the more comes from, because this is my first meeting as a trustee, so this is as transparent as I can be. But I think that if the clock starts ticking now, the 30th, I think would be a very adequate extension for closing the applicant pool. And it doesn't change what we would do because our next meeting isn't till after that anyway. So we could still make the next meeting include each applicant and we wouldn't be delayed. We would have to have a bit of an urgent convening to make sure that we got our process right from that point on.
Right.
But I'm in agreement that moving it to the 30th, just to make sure that we can put one more, raise one more flag. Thanks.
Cool. So would you all like to, the three of you without me, someone make a motion, I'll recuse myself, please? Yeah.
I motion that we delay the deadline for 1 week until the 30th of January.
Yeah,
What is it?
call for a vote.
Call for what?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm recusing myself from that vote.
Thanks.
Cool.
And I think that, I know the motion's been made, but it's not a delay. We're just setting the process now. Because we, as board members, as trustees, didn't get a chance to set this process yet. It was a discussion that was had as a prep for this time with some guidance. So great.
If I can also just, recommend, it really helps when the board does this work, you know, within like obviously the laws of me laws, but you know, in pairs, work out those questions and flesh out the entire process before the 28th, you know, like that would be really, 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 really helpful. You know, if you can just set that time and whatnot, and I will, in the meantime, get different legal opinions on what different kinds of recusals mean. But I do know legally the process technically doesn't change, you know, but we can find out what recusals mean.
So I'd be glad to offer kind of an interview structure that I could send via email. And I think we could invite the public to bring any questions you think would be important to ask in that interview process via email before our next meeting is, what's the date you just shared?
The 28th.
Yeah.
Can be a long meeting.
So before the meeting, I would say, you know, those that want to offer questions before next Friday, the 23rd, you could suggest topics that you think should be asked of candidates. And I'm happy to put together like a standard interview that we would do for each of them. And send that to only, can we have that? Can we do that email exchange?
So you
Just
can
setting
email
up the
each
process
other
we can do, yeah.
individually, sure.
Yeah. And so suggesting that, send out what could be what could be an interview template, make some amendments to it, and then share it at the next board meeting as this is the way candidates will be interviewed. And that puts us in a position to be able to conduct those interviews in one or both of the February meetings.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Anything else on this before we move on? So I motion to approve bills and claims.
There's a question from
Just what email address would we send those questions?
So they all, oh, yeah, there is no, so BB at goes to all of us plus staff, like our staff, you know, our assistants, so,
Probably go to Ariana.
yeah. So project manager at villageofnewpaltz.gov. All right, I motion to pass our resolution of bills and claims. All in favor?
Aye.
And do we have a planning board report? I know we just assigned our liaison.
Yeah, I can give you a quick one.
Okay, we'll take a quick report.
Yeah. At the first meeting in December was canceled because there was no business. The first meeting in first meeting in December was canceled because of weather.
Mhm.
The first meeting in January was canceled because of no business. The last meeting in December, we approved a single family home on 40 Prospect Street at the corner of Prospect and Henry W. And at next week's meeting, the 20th, there will be two applications. One, the Historic Huguenot Museum is coming back. They've made significant changes. And the second is Woodland Pond is coming with a proposal for an expansion of their campus.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. And then, yeah, I guess we will have ZBA reports and these reports at future meetings.
Yeah. Quick CBA.
Okay, yeah.
We had a meeting last night. We had one application, 13 Academy. They are applying to do residential and apartment in a former carriage house, which was converted into office. They want to bring it back into residential because they were unable to get a tenant for office. And in order to do so, they need a variance because in order to do residential on the first floor, they're in the business district. It needs to be type A or type B compliant, and they will not have that. So they're applying for that variance. They also need a small side yard variance of probably about a foot. So they're applying for that.
Okay.
And And that's all. The ZBA has not had a lot of activity in the last 6 months. I think we got 2 applications in 6 months.
Oh, don't jinx it. I'm like, I'm gonna knock on wood. All right, and with that, I motion to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.